Imagine this. You've been living peacefully next to your neighbor, respectful of each other's rights and boundaries. Until one day, your neighbor started to build a structure that was obviously encroaching on your land. You told your neighbor that he could not build his structure on your premises. However, he insisted that the area was part of his property based on what his grandfather had told him. To solve the problem, you called a surveyor to determine the limits of your property based on the registered land title. The surveyor confirmed your position that your neighbor's construction was indeed within your property. Despite this, your neighbor continued the construction and even encroached on a larger portion of your land in the process. Not cool, right? It is similar to the situation in the West Philippine Sea. China continuously encroaches on the territory of the Philippines, insisting on its historical rights over the area. Ano bang pakialam nating mga kabataan dito? Why should we care? What is it about the West Philippine Sea and its significance to our future as young Filipinos? Pag-usapan natin. Can you spot the West Philippine Sea on the map? Let me show you where it is. The West Philippine Sea refers to the maritime areas within 200 nautical miles on the western side of the Philippine archipelago. This includes portions of the Spratly Islands and Scarborough Shoal. The area was officially named the West Philippine Sea in 2012, during the term of former President Noynoy Aquino by virtue of administrative order. The West Philippine Sea is rich in aquatic resources and many Filipino fishermen depend on it for their livelihood. Did you know that an average of over 318,000 metric tons of fish, or around 11% of the total fish production in the Philippines, comes from the West Philippine Sea? This is why the West Philippine Sea is important to our country's food security. Moreover, the area is rich in oil and natural gas. The United States Geological Survey, or the USGS, estimates that up to 3 billion barrels of petroleum and 60.2 trillion cubic feet of natural gas are still undiscovered in the Spratly Islands. The West Philippine Sea and South China Sea are busy nautical highways. In 2016, 21% of global trade passes through the area. Is the West Philippine Sea similar to the South China Sea? No, they are not the same and cannot be used interchangeably. The South China Sea is located south of China and Taiwan, east of Vietnam, west of the Philippines, and north of Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, and Malaysia. Like the Philippines, each country surrounding the South China Sea has a sovereign claim over portions of it. What law governs the sea? The UNCLOS is the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, also referred to as the Law of the Sea Convention. UNCLOS is an international agreement that establishes the legal framework for the seas and oceans by defining the rights and obligations of the states parties with respect to the maritime environment. Under UNCLOS, coastal states are granted up to 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zones. This allows the country's sovereign rights to explore, conserve, and manage natural resources, establish artificial islands and install structures, conduct marine scientific research, and protect and preserve the marine environment. For an archipelago like the Philippines, it has sovereign rights over the waters within 200 nautical miles around it, including the West Philippine Sea. While countries have sovereign rights over living and non-living resources within their exclusive economic zone, no one owns the ocean, which is why freedom of navigation and overflight must be ensured in these areas. If there's a law ensuring order on the seas, why is China causing so much trouble for the Philippines and other countries around the South China Sea? Herein lies the problem. China claims almost the entire South China Sea within the 9-dash line, something that overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, and Taiwan. China claims ownership of the area, asserting it has been theirs traditional fishing ground for 2,000 years. China has already reclaimed some features that are technically under the Philippine EEZ, and in doing so, they have destroyed the rich marine ecosystems and complex coral reefs in the area through dredging to create artificial islands. These islands are now home to some of China's military infrastructure. Despite the strong opposition from the Philippines, China is not listening and using its force to harass Filipinos in the West Philippine Sea. Where do you turn to when you're being bullied? The International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, or ITLOS, is an independent judicial body established by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to adjudicate disputes arising from the interpretation and application of the Convention. With China using its full force to bully the Philippines, in 2013, the Philippines under President Noynoy Aquino filed a complaint before the International Tribunal. 3 years later, the arbitral court ruled in favor of the Philippines, stating that China's 9-dash line is illegal and that the Philippines has the sole right to utilize and explore the West Philippine Sea. Despite this ruling, China remains nonchalant. It is ironic that being a signatory to the UNCLOS, China does not recognize the ruling of the arbitral court and did not even participate in the proceedings.
Our efforts stand in stark contrast to assertive actions that aim to propagate excessive and baseless claims to force, intimidation, and deception. We have on our side the 1982 UNCLOS and the binding 2016 arbitral award, which affirms what is ours by legal right. In this solid footing and through our clear moral ascendancy, we find the strength to do whatever it takes to protect our sovereign home, to the last square inch, to the last square millimeter.
So who should enforce the ruling of the International Tribunal? Unfortunately, ITLOS has no enforcement power, meaning it has no police to implement its rulings. Despite this, all signatories of the UNCLOS, including China, must abide by its rules. Otherwise, it will create a chaotic situation. Countries around the world recognize the sovereign rights of the Philippines over the West Philippine Sea, and China must respect it too. The Philippines, though a small country, is not yielding to China's bullying and continues to assert its rights, believing that right is might.
We must prepare ourselves for a long struggle because that's the only way we can defend our maritime zones. That's the only way we can protect ourselves. Otherwise, we will lose our fishing grounds, our mineral resources, our oil and gas. So we must be prepared to continue this struggle for the next 25 years, if it has to last that long, because we have to preserve these resources not only for ourselves, but for the next generation of Filipinos.
In part 2 of our West Philippine Sea episode, let's discuss the escalating tension in the area and the steps being taken to resolve the problem.